From the moment you enter any room, people begin measuring you. They are not only listening to your words, they are observing your boundaries, your confidence, your emotional discipline, and how easily they can influence your behavior. The greatest mistake many people make is believing that being excessively friendly will earn them love, loyalty, and respect. It feels logical. If you smile more, help more, agree more, and make everyone comfortable, surely people will appreciate you. But human nature rarely rewards what is freely available. Instead, it often undervalues it. The more eager you are to please everyone, the less memorable and respected you become. This is not because kindness is weakness. Kindness is powerful. What weakens you is kindness without limits. It sends the silent message that your approval has no price and your attention is available to anyone. Power has always belonged to those who understand emotional control. They do not rush to become everyone's friend. They observe before they trust. They speak carefully instead of constantly seeking validation. This restraint creates curiosity. People naturally wonder about those who reveal themselves slowly. Mystery increases value because the human mind is attracted to what it cannot fully possess. When you constantly explain yourself, constantly agree, and constantly make yourself available, there is nothing left to discover. Familiarity replaces curiosity, and curiosity is one of the foundations of influence. Notice how people often treat the person who is always available. They cancel plans without guilt, interrupt them without apology, and expect endless favors because they assume there will never be consequences. This pattern is not created by others alone. It is created by the signals you send. Every unnecessary yes teaches people that your time is less important than theirs. Every moment you ignore your own needs to satisfy someone else's expectations, you quietly reduce your own value. Respect cannot survive where self-respect is absent. History repeatedly shows that influential individuals understood the importance of distance. They were polite but not desperate, generous but not endlessly accessible. Their attention was earned, not freely distributed. They understood that scarcity increases value in every aspect of life, including relationships. Your presence becomes meaningful only when your absence can be felt. Being less friendly does not mean becoming cold, arrogant, or cruel. It means replacing the need for approval with quiet confidence. It means helping because you choose to, not because you fear rejection. It means allowing people to experience the consequences of taking you for granted instead of constantly rescuing them from their own behavior. Confidence grows when your actions align with your values rather than your desire to be liked. Most people spend years chasing acceptance without realizing that genuine respect comes from consistency, boundaries, and emotional independence. Those who are secure do not perform for affection. They understand that not everyone needs to like them, and that trying to win every heart often results in losing yourself. The moment you stop making friendship your primary goal and start protecting your dignity, your interactions change. People begin to notice your calmness, your restraint, and your standards. Ironically, when you no longer chase connection through excessive friendliness, your relationships become stronger, more balanced, and built on genuine respect instead of convenience. Every valuable thing in life is protected by boundaries. A nation has borders, a fortress has walls, and the most successful people guard their time, attention, and emotions with extraordinary care. Yet, when it comes to personal relationships, many people abandon this principle. They believe that saying yes to every request, making themselves constantly available, and avoiding conflict at all costs will make them more likable. In reality, the absence of boundaries does not create stronger relationships. It creates imbalance. The moment people realize they can access you whenever they want, ask for anything without resistance, or cross your limits without consequence, your value begins to decline in their eyes. Human nature respects what protects itself. Boundaries are not barriers against people. They are barriers against exploitation. They define where your responsibilities end and where someone else's begin. Without them, your life slowly becomes controlled by the expectations of others. You begin sacrificing your priorities to solve problems that are not yours, apologizing for things you did not cause, and carrying emotional burdens that belong to someone else. This constant surrender feels generous at first, but over time it creates resentment, exhaustion, and invisibility. The tragedy is that while you believe you are earning appreciation, many people simply become accustomed to your sacrifices. What was once seen as generosity soon becomes expected behavior. Powerful individuals understand that every yes carries the hidden cost of saying no to something else. When you agree to every invitation, every favor, and every demand, you are silently refusing your own goals, peace of mind, and personal growth. Your energy is limited, your attention is finite. The people who achieve extraordinary results are not necessarily more talented than everyone else. They are simply more disciplined about protecting these resources. They recognize that time is the one currency that can never be recovered. Boundaries also reveal character. When you calmly refuse unreasonable demands, you discover who genuinely respects you and who only valued your usefulness. Some people become angry the moment you stop being endlessly available. They accuse you of changing, becoming distant, or acting selfish. But their disappointment often reveals a painful truth. They were attached to the benefits of your compliance, not to you as a person. Healthy relationships adapt to boundaries. Manipulative ones fight against them. There is remarkable strength in the simple ability to say, no, that doesn't work for me. No long explanations, no guilt, no unnecessary apologies. Every time you defend your boundaries with calm confidence, you reinforce your self-respect. Others begin to recognize that your attention must be earned rather than assumed. They become more thoughtful with your time because they understand it has value. The paradox is that boundaries do not push worthy people away, they attract them. Emotionally mature individuals admire those who know their limits because they understand that discipline creates stability. People trust those who can protect their own lives because such people are less likely to become resentful, desperate, or emotionally dependent. The strongest relationships are not built on endless availability, but on mutual respect, voluntary generosity, and the quiet understanding that both people have lives, priorities, and standards worth protecting. The moment people realize that you are always available, they begin to test you. Most of these tests are not deliberate or malicious. They happen naturally because human beings are constantly measuring the limits of others. They want to know how much they can ask, how much they can take, and how much resistance they will face. If every request is met with an immediate yes, if every interruption is welcomed without hesitation, and if every inconvenience is accepted with a smile, you silently communicate that your time, energy, and attention have no real boundaries. Once that message is established, it becomes difficult to reverse. People stop treating your generosity as a gift and begin treating it as an expectation. This is one of the hidden dangers of being excessively friendly. You confuse availability with loyalty, and others confuse your kindness with obligation. They begin calling only when they need something, expecting instant replies regardless of your situation, asking for favors without considering your schedule, and assuming you will always rearrange your life for their convenience. None of this happens overnight. It develops slowly through repeated patterns that you unknowingly encourage. Every unnecessary sacrifice teaches people what they can expect from you in the future. Those who possess real influence understand that availability should never become a habit. Their time is protected because they recognize its value. They are willing to help, but only when it aligns with their priorities and principles. They do not respond to every demand immediately because they refuse to let urgency from others become pressure on themselves. This calm restraint sends a powerful psychological message. It communicates that they are in control of their decisions rather than controlled by other people's expectations. Many fear that saying no or delaying a response will damage relationships. In reality, healthy relationships become stronger when both people respect each other's boundaries. It is the unhealthy relationships that begin to crack under limits because they were built on convenience instead of mutual respect. When someone becomes frustrated simply because you are unavailable for a short time, the frustration often reveals dependence rather than genuine connection. Their reaction exposes what they valued most, your constant accessibility. Observe highly respected individuals in any field. They are rarely accessible to everyone at every moment. They choose when to engage, whom to assist, and where to invest their energy. This selectiveness is not arrogance, it is discipline. They understand that every commitment carries a cost, and every distraction steals attention from something more meaningful. Because they protect their time, others naturally begin respecting it as well. The ability to pause before agreeing is one of the greatest forms of personal power. Instead of responding instantly out of guilt or fear of disappointing someone, you allow yourself space to think. You ask whether the request aligns with your values, your responsibilities, and your long-term goals. This simple pause changes everything. It shifts you from reacting emotionally to acting intentionally. People begin noticing that your decisions are thoughtful rather than impulsive, and that realization increases their respect for you. There is also another reason people test those who are always available. They are searching for confidence. Confidence is revealed through limits. A person who values themselves is not afraid to disappoint others occasionally because they understand that pleasing everyone is impossible. They know that protecting their peace is not selfish but necessary. They recognize that real generosity comes from strength, not exhaustion. When you stop making yourself endlessly accessible, you force people to appreciate your presence instead of assuming it. They begin planning around your availability rather than expecting you to adjust to theirs. Your words carry more weight because they are no longer spoken out of habit but out of choice. In the end, the greatest lesson is simple. Respect grows where limits exist, and those who protect their time teach the world how they deserve to be treated. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of power. In a world where everyone feels compelled to explain themselves, defend every decision, and constantly seek attention, the person who remains calm and speaks only when necessary immediately stands apart. Excessive friendliness often comes with excessive talking. You reveal your opinions too quickly, explain your motives too often, laugh to make others comfortable, and fill every uncomfortable pause with unnecessary words. At first, this may seem like warmth, but over time it removes one of the greatest sources of influence, mystery. When people know everything about you, they stop wondering. When there is nothing left to discover, curiosity fades, and with it, much of your psychological advantage. Human beings are naturally drawn toward what they cannot completely understand. This is why mystery has always carried a unique form of attraction. The unknown stimulates imagination. People begin filling in the blanks with their own assumptions, often assigning greater value to someone who reveals little than to someone who reveals everything. Those who constantly seek approval by oversharing rarely realize they are giving away the very thing that makes them interesting. Every unnecessary explanation reduces intrigue. Every attempt to justify yourself places your confidence in the hands of other people, silently asking for permission to be accepted. Powerful individuals understand that not every thought deserves to be spoken. They choose their words carefully because they know speech cannot be taken back once released. Silence, however, creates space. It allows others to reveal themselves while you observe. The person who listens gains information. The person who constantly speaks gives information away. This imbalance has shaped negotiations, leadership, and human relationships throughout history. The quieter individual often leaves the interaction with greater understanding because they have spent more time studying than performing. Being mysterious does not mean pretending to be secretive or manipulating others. It means resisting the urge to explain every decision or expose every emotion. If someone misunderstands you, you do not always need to rush to correct them. If someone disagrees with your choices, you do not owe a lengthy defense. Confidence is often expressed through restraint rather than argument. The strongest people understand that their actions will eventually speak louder than any explanation they could offer. Consider how often people lose respect simply because they cannot tolerate silence. They apologize unnecessarily, reveal personal struggles to people who have not earned their trust, or attempt to entertain everyone around them. In doing so, they unintentionally place themselves in a weaker position. Information is valuable, and valuable things should not be distributed carelessly. Every detail you reveal becomes something another person can interpret, judge, or even use against you. Emotional discipline requires knowing the difference between honesty and overexposure. Silence also changes the dynamics of conflict. When someone attempts to provoke you, they often expect an emotional reaction. Anger, defensiveness, and endless explanations provide them with exactly what they want. A calm silence, however, interrupts their expectations. It forces them to confront uncertainty instead of feeding on your emotions. Few responses are more unsettling than refusing to participate in unnecessary drama. This does not mean avoiding important conversations. It means refusing to waste your energy on battles that only drain your peace. The more selective you become with your words, the more weight those words begin to carry. People listen carefully because they know you do not speak merely to fill empty space. Your opinions gain authority because they are offered thoughtfully rather than impulsively. At the same time, your reserved nature creates a quiet confidence that others instinctively notice. They begin wondering what you are thinking instead of ignoring what you are constantly saying. In that space between silence and certainty, respect quietly grows, and your presence becomes more influential than endless conversation ever could. For many people, the smallest word in the language is also the hardest to say. That word is no. It seems simple, yet countless individuals spend years avoiding it because they fear rejection, conflict, or disappointing others. They convince themselves that constant agreement is the price of maintaining relationships. But every time you say yes against your own judgment, you silently say no to your peace, your priorities, and your self-respect. The inability to refuse is not kindness. It is often fear disguised as generosity. Those who understand power recognize that the freedom to say no is one of the clearest signs of emotional independence. People pleasers often believe they are preserving harmony by avoiding disagreement. In reality, they are teaching others that their boundaries are flexible and their needs come last. The first time someone asks for an unreasonable favor, you may accept because you want to be helpful. The second time, you feel obligated because you have already established a pattern. By the third or fourth time, the favor is no longer seen as generosity. It becomes an expectation. Suddenly, refusing feels like betrayal, even though the only thing that has changed is your willingness to protect your own time. This is how people become trapped in relationships built on obligation instead of mutual respect. Powerful individuals are not afraid of disappointing people when necessary. They understand that every meaningful life requires difficult decisions. You cannot satisfy everyone while remaining true to yourself. Someone will always disagree with your choices, misunderstand your intentions, or expect more than you can reasonably give. Accepting this reality is liberating because it frees you from the impossible task of earning universal approval. The pursuit of endless acceptance is exhausting, while the acceptance of yourself creates lasting confidence. Learning to say no does not require aggression or arrogance. In fact, the strongest refusals are often calm, respectful, and direct. You do not need long explanations or elaborate excuses. A simple response delivered with confidence carries more authority than a complicated apology. The more you explain unnecessary details, the more opportunities you give others to negotiate your decision. Confidence does not seek permission, it communicates clarity. When your answer is based on principle rather than emotion, people eventually recognize that your boundaries are not temporary obstacles, but permanent standards. There is another hidden benefit to saying no. It reveals the true nature of the people around you. Genuine friends may feel disappointed, but they will respect your decision because they value you beyond what you can provide. Manipulative individuals, however, often react with guilt, anger, or emotional pressure. They may accuse you of changing, becoming selfish, or forgetting your friends. These reactions are rarely about your refusal itself. They are about losing control over someone who was once easy to influence. Their frustration exposes a relationship that depended more on your compliance than on genuine care. History repeatedly demonstrates that influential leaders, creators, and thinkers became successful not because they accepted every opportunity, but because they rejected most of them. They understood that focus requires sacrifice. Every unnecessary commitment steals attention from something truly important. Time is your most valuable resource, and every careless yes spends a portion of it that can never be recovered. Those who protect their schedule protect their future. The paradox is that people often respect you more after hearing a sincere no than after receiving countless reluctant yeses. They begin to understand that your agreements have value because they are intentional, not automatic. When you finally choose to help, your generosity is appreciated instead of expected. Your words carry greater weight because they are not driven by guilt or fear, but by genuine choice. Over time, this transforms your relationships. They become balanced rather than one-sided, respectful rather than demanding, and rooted in honesty instead of silent resentment. The courage to say no is ultimately the courage to place your values above temporary approval, and that decision marks the beginning of true personal strength. One of the greatest transformations you can make in life is becoming selective with your time, your energy, and your trust. Most people spend years believing that success comes from doing more, helping more, talking more, and giving more of themselves to everyone around them. Yet the individuals who command the deepest respect understand a different principle. Their strength does not come from endless availability, but from careful selection. They know that every person they allow into their lives, every conversation they entertain, and every commitment they accept carries a cost. Because they recognize this cost, they become intentional rather than impulsive. They choose quality over quantity, depth over popularity, and purpose over approval. Time is the only resource that can never be replaced. Money can be earned again, opportunities can return, and even damaged reputations can sometimes be rebuilt. But every hour spent on meaningless arguments, one-sided relationships, or unnecessary obligations is gone forever. This is why disciplined people guard their schedules with remarkable determination. They are not difficult to reach because they enjoy appearing important. They simply refuse to allow distractions to dictate the direction of their lives. They understand that every careless commitment steals attention from goals that truly matter. Energy is equally valuable. Every interaction either strengthens your spirit or quietly drains it. There are people who leave you feeling motivated, inspired, and peaceful. There are others who constantly create drama, demand emotional reassurance, or thrive on conflict. Excessive friendliness often traps you in the second category because you feel responsible for fixing everyone's problems. You become the listener for every complaint, the rescuer for every crisis, and the emotional support for people who rarely offer the same care in return. Eventually, you discover that your kindness has become a source of exhaustion rather than fulfillment. Real wisdom is recognizing that compassion does not require sacrificing your own emotional stability. Trust should also be earned slowly. One of the most common mistakes people make is confusing quick connection with genuine character. Someone can be charming, entertaining, and warm while still lacking integrity. Human nature teaches us that appearances often hide deeper motives. Those who possess experience understand the importance of observation. Instead of trusting words, they watch consistent behavior. Instead of believing promises, they pay attention to patterns. Character is not revealed in moments of comfort, but in moments of pressure, disappointment, and temptation. Time exposes what first impressions often conceal. Selective living is not about becoming cold or isolated. It is about recognizing that your presence is valuable and should not be given away carelessly. When you invest your attention only in relationships built on respect, honesty, and reciprocity, those relationships naturally become stronger. You stop chasing people who contribute little to your life and begin appreciating those who genuinely support your growth. This shift creates emotional freedom because your happiness no longer depends on pleasing everyone around you. There is also a quiet confidence that emerges when you stop trying to be available to all people at all times. You no longer panic when someone misunderstands you. You no longer rush to answer every message the moment it arrives. You no longer feel guilty for choosing rest over unnecessary obligations or solitude over meaningless social gatherings. Your decisions become guided by purpose instead of pressure. This calm certainty changes the way others perceive you. They begin to recognize that your attention is intentional, your trust is meaningful, and your time is precious. History consistently favors those who exercise discipline over impulse. Great leaders, thinkers, and strategists understood that power was not measured by the number of people surrounding them, but by the quality of their decisions and relationships. They knew that protecting their inner peace allowed them to think clearly, act decisively, and remain independent in a world full of demands. The same principle applies today. When you become selective with your time, your energy, and your trust, you stop living according to other people's expectations and begin living according to your own values. That is the moment you cease being merely friendly and become genuinely respected, because people understand that access to your attention is a privilege earned through character, not something handed out simply because they ask.